Hi everyone, today I would like to spend a little bit of time practicing some scroll work. And so I'm kind of just starting to get set up here with some paper. This is just a pretty small piece of paper. And I would like it if you joined me and we practice some scroll work. And while I'm at it, I'll share with you a little bit of exciting news of some things that are going on, some things that I'd like to be sharing with you soon. So how about we just get started? So just to get started here, the piece of paper that I'm using, this is actually just sketch paper, so it's kind of a sulfite paper, medium weight, and it's really tiny. So it looks like this is about 5.5 inches, and the width of it is only, what are we looking at here, about 4.5 inches, so it's pretty tiny. I don't like to draw on large paper too often just because the projects will take too long. And so this is the little canvas that we're going to be working on today. And so just to start working on some scroll work, usually what I do to just make things easy for myself is I start in a corner. So I'll just pick one, and then the good thing is that no matter which corner I start on, I can always just kind of start rotating, figure out some different orientations to what I like to do. So generally, because it is scroll work, I like to start myself off with a really easy kind of swirl. And so I'm just going to start in the corner, kind of work my way out, and I'll just draw this curling shape. All right, so we're just going to start drawing on this. I'm going to create another line here. This is definitely one of my favorite shapes to draw. So you may, if you've seen any of the other videos that I've made that I've posted, I love doing this a lot. So it's just this shape. It's kind of curling. I almost think of it like it's a fern and it's just curled up. So I'm going to be drawing quite a few of these. So I'm just going to start adding some lines right here, starting at the bottom. So these are quite tiny. So we start right here and just start adding these little curves in. You can go back and forth like I do, or you can just go in a single direction. This is just, we're just having fun here. And I'm basically just going to keep going like that. Just going to keep adding those little curves here and there. Okay, so I'm just going to keep working with my pen. And if you're wondering what pen I'm using, it's just you can just use any pen, really. The kind of pen that I'm using, if you want to check it out, I'm going to link it in the description so that you can see what those pens are. And so as I work here, I'm going to share with you a couple of the things that I've been up to this week. Why today I posted on a Tuesday instead of a Monday, because I suppose, long story short, I was so busy and so very tired. And so today, this is early on Tuesday, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time creating a nice little drawing and just chatting with you guys just for a few minutes. And so since I was busy, I'll tell you what kind of things I was busy doing. And the good thing is that quite a bit of it was related to this channel and to the content that I post here. So what I was doing is doing a lot of research and a lot of work setting things up so that I could start a podcast. I have actually been interested in that. A few people have mentioned that I should consider doing that. So I am actually looking into it. And I thought that it would be a very cool idea to give that a try. So I am actually setting myself up to be able to do that. So the very first thing that I did, and I've been testing it a lot, is a new microphone. And that's been really interesting. It's just learning to use a different kind of microphone, having a better setup for recording sound. So that's going to be really interesting. So I've been working with that, and also learning just basically the ins and outs of what podcasting is like, what kind of topics to cover, doing research, all of that. Just lots and lots of work. And so, of course, naturally, mentally, I am just exhausted. And I think in the moment when I'm exhausted, I don't feel so good, but then like realizing later, it's a good kind of exhaustion, I think. To be mentally busy, I suppose. As long as it isn't the kind of mentally busy that is kind of like ruminating or stressing out too hard, I'm going to consider it a good kind of busy mind. So that's what I've been up to. I am thinking of starting a podcast very soon, and I will, of course, be sharing it with all of you because it will be related to art topics, and basically just overall what it's like living this life, what it's like being this way, the artist life. And so I've been working on that. Of course, I've been working on new drawings, new art styles. Really been thinking about what kind of things I can do to share with all of you. And so it's just been keeping me really, really busy lately. I certainly do have to worry about those moments when I start feeling a little bit like I'm what's the word? Like I'm faking it. I am, for whatever reason, I can't find the word right now. Maybe some of you can tell me. Oh, that's right, an imposter. I know that it's kind of a big thing when you're working really hard on something. There always comes a time when you ask yourself if you're really doing it. Are you really the thing that you claim to be? And so I'm certainly experiencing some of that, some imposter syndrome right now, where I stop and I just kind of ask myself, why are you doing this? Are you really the one who is equipped and knowledgeable enough to be sharing information, to be sharing knowledge or ideas about this topic? And so it is definitely something that I have to deal with, something that I have to work past, because I think any of us have lots of good stuff to share, and I am part of that group. I am anybody. So I think that it's just something that I will have to work through, which I think anybody who's creative or has creative tendencies has to work through. Occasionally it's just kind of wondering if they're doing the right thing or going in the right direction. So that's definitely it. So if you're noticing here, I just started another one of these little shapes. And I'm just working through adding those contour lines just to bring it to life a little bit. So I'm just having fun doing that right now. And so I'm just going to continue adding those lines in here. Just, I don't know if you can tell, but right now my lines are actually not very smooth. I'll bring it up just a little closer so you can see. The lines are just a little wobbly, just a little wonky. They're not perfectly smooth. So if you're having that kind of issue, just know that it happens to all of us, that sometimes it takes more work. On some days it's a little more difficult than it ought to be. And so I would like to encourage you to be patient with yourself. Give yourself time. I know I've probably mentioned this before, but at the very least, something that I can tell you is that as a teacher, something that I always kept in mind when I was working with students of all sorts of different backgrounds, different ages, different cultures, is that with all these students, one of the things that really stops them is when they question whether they can do something and they basically just make up their mind and say, that's it, I'm not doing it, this isn't for me. And that may be true in some cases, but I think a lot of people quit way too soon. So when you are working here, when you are making your drawings, or if you are learning a new skill, anything new that you're doing, give yourself time. Sometimes the work that you're putting in when you're practicing, that work is you trying to convince your body and your mind, so in this case it would be your hand, and your mind to cooperate in order to create something that you haven't done in a long time, or maybe something that you've never done. And so that may take time to learn to get that kind of coordination, or even just to learn to create certain designs. So again, be patient with yourself. Give yourself time. Don't give up. That would be my advice to you for today on this lovely Tuesday. Be patient, and I am trying to do that for myself as well. I'm trying to be patient. I'm learning lots of new things. A lot of my frustrations recently are coming from my use of technology. It's a lot of work learning to use new tools, learning to use new microphones, new programs on my computer, on my iPad, on my phone, learning to edit in new ways. It's a lot. It's a lot to learn. So if I can do this, I know you can do this. You can figure out how to draw some of these things. You can figure it out. I promise you, you can do it. And the biggest contributor in that is how patient are you going to be with yourself? Because the case may simply be that you are not going to be able to achieve a thing, that new thing that you want so badly. You may not be able to do it in the first try or the second try or even the 10th. You may need to work at it for months in order to get where you want to get. So be patient. Very, very patient. And so I am doing my best right now to practice what I preach, and I'm trying to be patient in all of my endeavors and to not ruminate, not stress out about all the same things over and over and over again. So that's why I am here with you right now. I'm in this moment and I'm just playing right now. That's what I'm doing right now. So I'm hoping that you're also doing this as well. See, notice my lines are wobbly right here. Just a little wobbly. I know that I could do better, but you know what? This is what my hand is doing, and I'm okay with it. There's also that case that sometimes while we're creating something, we are much more, how should I say this? We are much more judgmental of it than we really need to be. When we look at it later, we'll probably think, wow, that is beautiful and amazing. Who did that? Oh, I did that. Whereas right in the moment while you were making it, you were probably thinking, oh, it's the worst thing ever. It's wobbly. It's weird. Yeah, it might be wobbly and it might be weird, and that is okay. So I am just going to keep working through this. Just keep finishing. I'm almost getting to the end here. So these last couple of curves I really need to fill in right here. Right, so there we go. So I have 3 of these curves. I think I'm at a good spot where I'm going to stop doing these 3, so I already have the 3 of them. That is the foundation on which I'm going to add all of my little scroll work. So the rest is going to be very tiny. And so there are going to be, let's go with 3 basic shapes that I'm going to add to here. And I'll show you what those are. I will get in a little closer so you can see. So the 3 basic shapes that I'm going to draw throughout. My first one will be this little thing that looks almost like a leaf. I use this a lot in a lot of drawings. So it's this long teardrop shape. So like this. See how they're long? Very thin. Long and thin. I like to use these a lot when I do my scroll work. So those are it. And just to give it even more dimension, see right here? Add a little line right here. Almost as if it were a leaf. So right there. Like that. So almost like they're little leaves, and when you draw them in, try adding them in a few different directions. Let them bend like that. And all the little leftover space is just adding. So I'm going to add one more right here. Why not? So I'll put this one here and maybe just one more. So that's one of the shapes that I like to use a lot. And so another shape that I like to use that looks really cute is another strange little leaf. And it looks almost like it has 3 parts to it. So I'll show you what I mean. So here is one bump. That's one. And then a longer bump. And then a third one right here. So this is a strange little leaf. You can make yours however you like. This is just how I'm going to do mine. And I'm going to add these little lines inside of it just to give it some dimension. So it's a strange leaf with 3 little bumps. That's the second motif I'm going to use. Let me go over here and add a few more of my little long leaves here. Here and maybe here. And so as I fill in around here, I'll be using those. And I think I had a third one. My third one's really easy. It's just these little circles. Tiny, tiny circles like this. Like this. And I'll just go around adding them to just kind of give it some attitude. How about right here, a little circle. That's all I'm doing. So that's what I'm going to do with my scroll work. I can even add a few more of these over here. So let's see. And generally, I'm trying to follow the flow of the scroll. So that's why in this case, I'm going to add one of these here like that. A long one here. I'm going to put one of my strange little three section leaves here. 1, 2, and then maybe 3 right here. They don't have to be perfectly symmetrical. At least when I draw them, I don't need them to be perfectly symmetrical. Put a little circle here and here, a couple of circles. So there we go. All it takes is 3 little designs. And so I'm just going to go around and filling all of the areas around here and just seeing how far I can get. So I'm going to continue doing that right here. And so I'm just going to pretty much just keep stacking them up like that. And just continue filling in all these spaces with lots of little leaves. Different kinds. I know that everybody has a different type of scroll work. Different way to do scrolls. Or swirls or things like that. And I think this is just one way that is kind of stuck with me over the years. So it almost looks like vines. Like really, really interesting little vines. I'm just going to keep adding those here. And anytime I need to, I'll kind of add a few more. So right here, and it'll help fill in the space even more. So how about I add some circles here? And I'll just keep going like that. Okay. So right here. And if at any point I get bored, I might add something else in, but I think for now I'm just going to stick to these basic ones here. So like that. So about what I mentioned earlier about starting a podcast, I actually would really love it if you guys could give me your feedback. If you could let me know what you think, like what kind of things you'd like to hear as far as discussions, or if you have any other podcasters that you may want to recommend to me, anything that you've listened to recently that you just were really inspired by. Because in truth, I don't listen to too many podcasters right now. I actually find it difficult to find voices that I click with. And most of the time I find that podcasts tend to do a lot of interviews and I kind of lose interest. So it may just be that I'm very particular. And so, but I would love to find voices that might be inspiring, that might really help out during this strange little endeavor that I'm pursuing right now. That would be really nice if any of you have anyone to recommend. And so, I think this is looking kind of interesting. Let's see how this goes. I'm just going to keep adding leaves here. Another interesting project that I'm pursuing currently is actually that I just received a commission. It was actually one from about a month ago, but we needed to put it on pause for just logistical reasons. We put the project on pause, but I finally got in contact with the client, and we are going to start up with that. So I'm going to be creating some artwork soon for somebody's new music album for an indie artist, and I think that's going to be so interesting. I'm starting to do some research and trying to find out what kind of things I can add to it. I already have my own style, of course, but it'll be interesting listening to their music for their album and kind of getting some vibes and figuring out what it is that I want to do for their album art. So that's going to be really interesting. I've been looking forward to that, and I've been doing little test runs, kind of figuring out some little designs and kind of some ideas just for that. But I feel like we're finally going to be putting that together, and that'll be happening pretty soon. So that'll be fun. And I will likely be sharing with you some of the process for that, for some of the artwork. There is a likelihood, so it is very likely that I will probably do some test runs just so I get comfortable with certain techniques, and I'll certainly be sharing that with all of you. I've never done artwork for an album, so there were some things that I needed to learn, at least as far as the contract and just kind of setting up the agreement and things like that. But I think it was pretty straightforward, pretty understandable, and I'm excited. I'm very excited. It's just something new, exciting, something different, something to get me outside of my comfort zone. And I definitely need that. I need the excitement. So, yeah, this is coming out really interesting. So hopefully you're drawing along with this right here and you're giving it a try. Just a couple of simple little designs, simple little motifs. And I'm just going to keep adding right here. Okay, so that looks pretty good so far. I think it does. So I think what I'm going to do is right here, I'm going to do a silly little thing. I'm just going to put a bunch of circles. I noticed that I'm just doing a lot of leaves along the edge here, so I'm going to make a cluster of circles. Let's see how that looks. Should be pretty interesting. Maybe here. In such a tight spot, it's a little difficult to put all these little circles, but we will try to get them in here. So right there, and then I'm going to start up with another cluster. So you'll notice that here, they've come out right here. So here, there is quite a bit of space. We have a lot of space over here on the right hand side. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to make another one of these swirls, but it's not going to be as defined as this one. It's going to be much smaller, so I'll show you what I mean. So right here, I'll make a swirl like this, but it's going to be thinner. Let's see if this works out. So a thinner kind of coil right here. And so any space where I think it's just empty and I kind of want to put something there, I'm going to put one of these very thin coils. So I'm thinking maybe I can put one over here. How do I want it? This way? That's fine. So I will put it this way. Just a thin little coil. And then so what I can do is I can leave that alone, or I can kind of embellish it with a few little shapes. Let's start just by embellishing here a little. And that looks fine. I could leave it alone. I think my preference is to do the silly little thing. And I like to add these itty bitty circles to the outer edge of this coil, just so that it doesn't stay too bland, just so it's got something going on. So that's something fun I like to do. And I think I might just leave it like that, just with a few little circles on it. And I'm going to do the same over here. Let's add some circles. And then as I get about here, they'll get really tiny and I'll just try to blend it in like that. So that's good enough. And I'll just keep going here. So now what I have is a foundation to work on, just to start adding some more of my little leaves, some more motifs. So I'm going to do my best to add them in a couple different directions, but still kind of heading towards this shape here. I'm trying to follow the flow here. So this is okay. And I don't want to go any further than this. I think I'm just going to stop about here. I'll just put one of these leaves here. I think I'm good enough. Or I think this is good enough at least. About here, a few little circles. So it looks all right. So now that I have that there, I think I'm going to start just playing around and adding a few that are just kind of floating here. Little different sizes and clustered, sometimes close together, sometimes far apart. Those always look kind of cute. Little floaters. So that's nice. I could add a few over here. like that. That's pretty good. And so I think that that's the idea that I'm going to continue here, so I'm just going to keep going. So just add more of these leaves. Doing my best to not make a huge mess, but at the same time just being okay with whatever happens. So maybe like that. Maybe here. I think this is going to be a good spot for adding some of these very long leaves right here. It looks really dramatic. And they're just flowing like that, just long. I'm going to add a bunch of them here. Okay, so that's pretty good. And then I'm just going to start working around this way to add some of these. And of course you'll notice that any time that I have a strange little spot, just fill it with ink. And there's no need to put too much in the little spaces. Sometimes too much is, well, too much. So we are going to try to avoid that here. And we're going to try to do just enough. And we're going to start entering, again, this little tight area there. It's a little enclosed. So I'm going to make some of these just a little shorter so it doesn't get too crowded. And briefly I'm going to just jump over here so I can start working some of the ones that go this way. So maybe here. And you'll notice they're just simple, just these little leafy shapes. Doesn't have to be too complicated. Maybe just a few circles right here because this is kind of an awkward spot. Just some circles. And then now that I'm here, I can bring the rest of these in here. So how about one of these? Couple of leaves, and that finishes it off. I could add more, but I think it's fine like this. And then I'll just continue over here on this side. Like that. Leaves. Leaves, leaves, leaves. Lots and lots of leaves. I know Scrollwork doesn't have to be leaves. I think there's a version of it that's technically more like feathers than leaves, but it's just the way that I think of these. My dog is right behind me. She's snoring again. She picks just the great times. You'll probably not hear her, but I can definitely hear her. She is a loud girl. She snores so good. She had her breakfast. She frolicked around. She went outside. She's had a good time. She's very inspirational. Although sometimes she stresses out. I don't know what's up with her. She is older, and I've only had her for the last few years, so I do wonder why she gets so much anxiety. I feel for her though, because I'm the same. I know I get anxiety too, so I feel bad for her when I can see she's stressing out. But right now, she's happy. She's a happy girl. Taking a nice nap and snoring. And so you'll see here, we're actually getting pretty close to the end here. Just about filled in most of what I wanted to fill in. So this is pretty fun. I don't think I'll be doing any shading today. I think I'm just going to finish doing the scroll work. It was my main intention. Was just to make these little shapes and show you how I like to do them. sometimes I do some shading. That's always fun, adding some color. I'm actually thinking, because I'm practicing a lot with my iPad, I may just use that to color this one this time. Actual color, not just grayscale. So I may not do that right away, but I would like to practice that. I think that might be a good idea. So I'm just going to skip this spot because I don't want to go too far past my edge here. And I'll start with a little circle here and just kind of do a few more leaves. But I do believe this would be a good chance to practice coloring using some digital techniques. Get some good practice in with that. And I know I don't have to use that. I can just stick to traditional mediums, because I know I could show you, and maybe in a different video. It's just, personally, with some of the things that I'm planning on doing, I need to start getting better using my iPad, using my computer, using things like that to create artwork that can be used like as thumbnails and things like that. So it is definitely the kind of thing that I need to be practicing. So that's what I'll do this time. I think we're just about done here. Thankfully, that is the reason why we use a small piece of paper, so that this doesn't become overwhelming. And there we have it. Little bit of scroll work, just a small drawing with only a few motifs, very simple techniques. If your drawing looks different than mine, don't worry about it. You're getting there. Every time you do a little drawing, you're practicing, you're working on it, you're getting closer and closer to your goal. So just keep practicing. Sometimes your lines will be wobbly like mine. Sometimes they'll be perfectly smooth. And that will be a wonderful day. So I'm just going to add a few of these little floating bubbles because I think they look interesting. Here, maybe spread them out a little bit. That's pretty good. So that is what I've got. That was my little bit of practice using Scrollwork. Pretty nice little practice. Didn't take too long. And so I think that once I get this edited, I'll share it with all of you so you can see what it looks like. So again, I apologize. I know that some of you were expecting me to post on Monday, but here I am on Tuesday doing this. It happens sometimes, unfortunately. And I will do my best to keep up with videos this week for all of you. But if not, I'll make sure to let everyone know if anything happens. Just I'm super, super busy with all these new projects right now. And it is both stressful and exciting in a wonderful new way. So I hope that you like this scroll work. I hope you play around with it. Try to see what directions you can create this in. I very much like it when it's growing upward, of course, but there are many other directions you can kind of create your designs, maybe this way. And I'm just going to finish that off. And so I hope you give this a try. This is really nice. I can imagine making an entire frame out of this, out of a larger work whenever there's time. It's just good to kind of practice and just keep working on this. So I hope that you like this. Let me know if you have any thoughts or any other ideas for me, anything else in the comments. I do occasionally get a bit busy and I don't have time to hit the comment section right away, but I do want all of you to know that I do read all of your comments, and I appreciate a lot all of your love, your kindness, all your wonderful comments are always very much appreciated. And so, having said that, I hope that you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful week. And I will see you in the next one.